got a 3% raise this year. You felt grateful. You said thank you. You might have even sent a nice email to HR expressing your appreciation. Meanwhile, your company's profit margin increased by 23%, and your boss just posted his new Lamborghini on LinkedIn with the caption, "Hard work pays off." Let me ask you something. Whose hard work exactly? I'm Ryan, and I'm about to break down the most profitable scam in corporate America, convincing you that your loyalty is an investment when it's actually a donation. And if you've ever looked at your paycheck and thought, I should be doing better than this, make sure you stick around, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly where your money is really going. Here's how the game works, and I want you to pay attention because this is where it gets beautifully evil. In 1978, the average CEO made about 30 times what the average worker made. That's already a lot, but you could at least understand the math. Fast forward to today, and the average CEO makes 351 times what the average worker makes. 351 times! That's not a typo. That's not the market. That's a systematic wealth transfer disguised as compensation structure. But here's where it gets really interesting. Your productivity, the actual value you generate for the company, has increased by 61% since 2000. 61%! You're doing more work, generating more value, using better technology, working longer hours. The data is clear. You are objectively more productive than workers were 20 years ago. So naturally, your wages went up 61% too, right? Wrong. Your wages went up 17%. 17. Not even enough to keep pace with inflation, let alone reward your increased productivity. Where did that other 44% go? Well, executive compensation went up 940%. Stock buybacks increased by over 400%. Shareholder dividends hit record highs. Your productivity gains didn't disappear, they got redistributed. Upward, always upward. And here's the psychological trick that makes this whole system work. They give you just enough to feel like you're making progress. A 3% raise feels like recognition. It feels like your hard work is being rewarded. You don't want to seem ungrateful, so you don't ask questions about why the CEO just got a $4 million bonus while you're still doing mental math before ordering appetizers at dinner. Let me paint you a specific picture. Let's say you work at a company with 500 employees. Your average salary is $60,000. The company makes $50 million in profit. If that profit was distributed evenly among everyone who generated it, you'd be making $160,000 a year. But that's not how it works. Instead, the top 10 executives split $20 million of that profit. The shareholders get another $25 million, and the remaining $5 million gets reinvested, which usually means stock buybacks that benefit the executives and shareholders. You, the person who actually generated that value, you got your 3% raise. Congratulations on the extra $1,800 a year before taxes. That'll almost cover the increased cost of your health insurance premium. Now I can already hear the objections. But Ryan, executives have more responsibility. Sure they do. Is it 351 times more responsibility? They have specialized skills. So do you. Have your skills gotten 351 times less valuable? They take on more risk. Do they? Because when companies fail, executives get golden parachutes. When companies fail, you get laid off with 2 weeks severance and a corporate email thanking you for your service. The system isn't broken, it's working exactly as designed. Your salary is calculated to keep you productive, but never comfortable. Never secure enough to take risks. Never stable enough to walk away. Just precarious enough to keep showing up. And the really insidious part? They've convinced you that asking for more is greedy. That negotiating aggressively is unprofessional. That discussing your salary with coworkers is somehow taboo. Even though the only people who benefit from salary secrecy are the people paying you less than you're worth. But here's what the productivity reports and corporate earnings calls don't tell you. And this is where we shift from diagnosis to treatment. Because understanding the problem is worthless if you don't know what to do about it. You can't change the system from inside it by being a better employee. But you can change your relationship to the system. Let me show you how. First, let's establish something important. I'm not going to tell you to quit your job and start a podcast. I'm not going to tell you that the solution is entrepreneurship or passive income or any of that aspirational garbage. Those might be end goals, but they're not actionable for someone living paycheck to paycheck. What I'm going to give you is a 3-part framework that works regardless of your current situation. This isn't about getting rich. This is about stopping the bleeding. Step 1. The Salary Redirect Protocol. Here's the move that changes everything. And it's so simple, you're going to think I'm trolling you. When you get your next raise, whether it's 3%, 2%, whatever insulting percentage they offer, you pretend it never happened. Let me explain exactly how this works. If you're making $60,000 and you get a 3% raise, you're now making $61,800. That's an extra $1,800 a year, or $150 a month after taxes. Most people immediately let lifestyle inflation eat that raise. Maybe they upgrade their apartment. Maybe they finally get that streaming service they've been thinking about. Maybe they just notice their checking account is slightly less terrifying at the end of the month. Don't do that. The day your raise takes effect, open a separate high-yield savings account. Set up an automatic transfer of $150 on the same day your paycheck hits. You never see the money, you never spend the money. Your lifestyle stays exactly the same as it was before the raise. But Ryan, $150 a month isn't going to make me rich. You're right, it's not. But here's what it does. It creates the foundation for every other financial move you're going to make. In year 1, you have $1,800. That's your, I can fix my car without a credit card fund. In year 2, you have $3,600. That's your, I can take an unpaid day off to interview somewhere better fund. In year 3, you have $5,400. That's your, I can tell my boss no without fear fund. And here's the beautiful part. If you get another raise in year 2, you add that to the automatic transfer. Now you're saving $300 a month, then $450. The amount compounds not because of interest, though you'll get some of that in a high-yield account, but because your salary theoretically keeps increasing. Within 5 years, you've accumulated $15,000 to $25,000 that you otherwise would have spent on things you don't even remember. And more importantly, you've rewired your brain. You've proven to yourself that you can live on less than you make. That skill is worth more than the money itself. Step 2. The True Cost Audit. Now that you're building a buffer, we need to address the leaks in your financial ship. And I'm not talking about your coffee habit. I'm talking about the big structural expenses that are quietly destroying your wealth-building capacity. Get a spreadsheet. I know that sounds corporate and boring, but stick with me. List every single recurring expense you have. Not just subscriptions, everything. Here's what most people discover when they actually do this. Your car payment is $450 a month. Over 5 years, that's $27,000 for a vehicle that's now worth $12,000. You didn't buy a car, you burned $15,000. Your apartment is $1,800 a month because you wanted to live in the nice area. The apartment 10 minutes further out is $1,300. That's $6,000 a year you're spending on proximity to restaurants you can't afford to eat at anyway. You have 7 streaming services costing a combined $85 a month. You regularly use 2 of them. That's $600 a year on content you're not watching. I'm not saying cut everything. I'm saying audit everything. Because when you see the lifetime cost of these decisions, the math changes. Suddenly, keeping that car for 3 more years instead of upgrading isn't a sacrifice. It's $15,000 you get to keep. Moving to the cheaper apartment isn't downgrading. It's buying yourself 2 years of financial runway. The goal isn't to live like a monk. The goal is to make sure that every dollar you're spending is actually buying you something you value more than the freedom that dollar could purchase. Step 3. The Loyalty Reversal. This is the part where we get a little spicy. Remember how your company expects loyalty from you while demonstrating none in return? Time to reverse that dynamic. Your employer is not your family. Your employer is a business transaction. They exchange money for your time and skills. When that transaction stops being favorable for you, you leave. No guilt. No, but they gave me a chance. No, I owe them. Here's the protocol. Every 6 months, update your resume and apply to 3 jobs. Not because you necessarily want to leave, but because you need to know your market value. Your company isn't going to tell you what you're actually worth. They're going to tell you what they can get away with paying you. When you get an offer, and eventually you will, you have leverage. You can either take the new job for more money, or you can use it to negotiate a real raise at your current company. And I'm not talking about 3%. I'm talking about 15 to 20%. But Ryan, my company would never give me a 20% raise. Then leave. If another company values your work 20% more than your current employer does, your loyalty is literally costing you thousands of dollars a year. And here's the data to back this up. People who job hop every 2 to 3 years earn approximately 50% more over their careers than people who stay loyal to one company. 50%. Your loyalty isn't noble, it's expensive. The buffer you built in step 1? That's what gives you the confidence to have these conversations. That's what lets you walk away from a bad situation instead of staying because you can't afford to miss 2 paychecks during a job transition. Now let's address the objections, because I know exactly what you're thinking. But Ryan, I can't save $150 a month. I'm already broke. Then the problem isn't your savings rate. It's your expenses or your income. If you genuinely can't find $150 in your budget, one of 2 things is true. Either you're spending money on things you don't need, or you're not making enough money to sustain your current life. Both of those are solvable, but you have to be honest about which one it is. If it's expenses, go back to the audit. I guarantee you're spending more than $150 a month on things that aren't essential. Cancel 2 subscriptions, cook dinner at home twice a week instead of ordering out, skip 1 night at the bar. I'm not saying live like a prisoner. I'm saying get uncomfortable for 12 months so you can be comfortable for the rest of your life. If it's income, then your main focus needs to be increasing your earnings. That might mean learning new skills, getting certifications, switching industries, or yes, finding a second source of income temporarily. It sucks. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't. But staying in a situation where you literally can't save $150 a month is not sustainable long term. What if I get laid off before I build up my buffer? Then you're in the exact same position you're in right now, except you would have had a few $1,000s to cushion the blow. This is precisely why you need the buffer. The people who get wrecked by layoffs aren't the ones who were saving, they're the ones who were spending every dollar they made and assuming their job was permanent. My company is great though. They really care about employees. Cool. Then they won't mind paying you what you're actually worth. Test it. Ask for a significant raise. See what happens. If they truly value you, they'll make it work. If they give you the corporate speech about budget constraints while the executive team gets bonuses, you have your answer. Isn't this cynical? Shouldn't I enjoy my job? You can enjoy your job and still recognize it's a transaction. These 2 things aren't mutually exclusive. I'm not telling you to be miserable. I'm telling you not to confuse a good work environment with financial security. Your coworkers might be great. Your boss might be supportive. Your company culture might be fun. None of that changes the fact that if revenue drops, you'll be laid off with 2 weeks' notice and a LinkedIn post about difficult decisions. Enjoy your job. Appreciate good management. Build friendships with colleagues. But don't mistake any of that for loyalty that works in your favor financially. This feels like I'm being greedy. No, asking for a 940% compensation increase would be greedy. Asking to be paid in proportion to the value you generate is called fairness. The system has successfully convinced workers that advocating for themselves is greedy, while executives taking 8-figure bonuses is just market rate. Don't fall for it. All right, let's put some actual numbers on this, because I want you to see exactly what we're talking about here. Imagine 2 versions of you. Same starting salary, same job, same skills. The only difference is the strategy. Version 1 is the loyal employee. You start at $60,000 a year. You work hard, you show up early, you stay late when needed. Every year, you get your 3% raise like clockwork. You feel good about it. By year 10, you're making $80,634. Not bad, right? Over that decade, your total earnings come out to about $688,000 before taxes. But here's the kicker. Your savings at the end of those 10 years? Maybe $5,000 if you're lucky. Because every time you got a raise, your lifestyle expanded just enough to absorb it. Better apartment, nicer car, more subscriptions, eating out a little more often. You didn't even notice it happening. Now let's look at version 2, the strategic version. Same $60,000 start, but this time, every raise you get goes straight into that separate account before you can touch it. You don't see it, you don't spend it. And every 2 to 3 years, you're not just waiting for that 3% raise, you're actively interviewing and switching jobs for 15 to 20% bumps. After 10 years, you're making $118,000. Your total career earnings are $890,000. And here's the beautiful part. You've got $35,000 sitting in that savings account from all those redirected raises. Money you never needed because you never let yourself get used to having it. Let's do the math on the difference. That's $202,000 more in total earnings, plus $30,000 more in actual savings. We're talking about a $232,000 gap between these two versions of the same person. And just to twist the knife a little, want to know what your boss made during that same 10 years? If their compensation follows the average CEO trajectory, they started at about $2.1 million and ended around $6.4 million annually. Total compensation over that decade? $42 million. So yeah, your extra $200,000 doesn't look quite as impressive when you see it next to their $42 million, does it? But here's what you need to understand. You're never going to match their income. That's not the goal. The goal is to stop being the one paying for it. Your productivity increases, their wealth increases. That's the system. But with this strategy, at least your wealth increases too, even if it's at a fraction of the rate. It's not fair, it's not equal, but it's better than the alternative, which is working just as hard and having nothing to show for it except a slightly nicer car that you're still making payments on. So here's your action plan. Stop being grateful for breadcrumbs. Start redirecting your raises. Audit your expenses. Know your market value. And remember, your loyalty is worth exactly what someone is willing to pay for it. If this video pissed you off or woke you up, subscribe to I Hate Finance, where we tell the truth about money instead of selling you dreams. Hit the like button if you're done funding someone else's Lamborghini. Now go fix your automatic transfers.